this is very powerful and very concerning.
Yeah.
So let me just run through the stats here and then you can interpret it. So on the bottom, this is the percentage of the workforce that is Millennial and Gen Z. So say whatever you want about them. You can't say that it's not becoming a bigger proportion of the workforce. So that's the gray down here. This blue is the number of whistleblowing tips for the SEC. And then the red is the percentage of employees that experience retaliation. So obviously there's correlation here. These things are going up. What do we think we're seeing here?
So, when I saw this in the ECI report, employees experiencing retaliation almost doubling from 2017, which it was at 44% to almost 80% this year. That's like an astronomical number. Like they're actually experiencing retaliation. So we have a retaliation problem across the board. So is this an outlier? Is this just kicked off because of COVID and it's going to revert back to 40% next year? I don't know. We don't know the moral hazard impact. So we need to keep an eye on this kind of a thing. But again, even if it's only at 44%, that's like a massive number. So we charted it against these other things to see, is there potentially a secular trend going on? And is there something that we can do about this to kind of get out in front of this? So the other place that we looked was the proportion of Gen Z and Millennial. This is a massive generational shift that's going on in our workforce. It's a massive generational shift that's going on in our economy. These workers, these generations are just materially or markedly different from the generations that have come before them. They're more vocal. They're more concerned about impact. They're more concerned about purpose. They're more concerned about our deeds following our words as corporations and so forth. They're less sort of worshipful of the almighty dollar, right? These are broad brushstrokes, but the point is there's something going on here for this to have doubled over the last few years and this to have doubled over the last few years as well. Like if there's a ton of stuff going on, no one's reporting it, right? We're getting 2-4 reports per 100. And 80% of people who actually do, express the courage and speak up are feeling some kind of retaliation. There's a massive issue going on that we need to do something about. So what we are kind of wondering is this generationally driven, first of all? And what can we do about it? So we know that there's all this stuff going on in our organization. We know no one is really speaking up. And we know 80% of people almost who actually do speak up are feeling some kind of retaliation. What we need to do is we need to attack this thing on two fronts. And all the reasons that people don't speak up really kind of boil down into two different categories. One is education based and one is sort of fear of retaliation based or just kind of fear based. So the education thing is people don't know what their reporting options are. 70% of people say that they don't even believe that there's truly an anonymous option available to them, but they would speak up if they believed it. Other reasons, in that education bucket are like, I don't think that it's my place to speak up, or this didn't seem big enough to speak up about it. So all those things can be attacked with education. Educate on process, educate on the types of things you want people to report on, educate on secondhand calls, which have a higher substantiation rate in general. Use some of that behavioral psychology with a campaign of speak up because they won't, right? So that you can step in as the hero and lean into your own courage on the behalf of someone else.
Yeah, it's powerful.
So that's the education piece. The other side is the fear of retaliation. And that accounts for about 45% of the reason why people don't speak up. Those are things like, fear of getting demoted, fear of losing my job, or even things like, I've seen how other people who have spoken up were treated, and I don't want any of that. Mm-hmm. So that accounts for, almost 95% of the reasons why people don't speak up. And what's great is that with a troubling trend like this, like we're always saying, if something is way off base, little changes can have massive impacts. So some of the things that we recommend people do is start a anti-retaliation campaign. In this campaign, you can incorporate a lot of education about this process and make it a cultural, tent pole for your organization to say, we want people to speak up. You have great ideas. You see things. The last thing we're going to do is jeopardize you in any way when you're trying to carry our mission forward. And start talking to other culture leaders, culture champions, or other leaders in the organization to say, listen, this might be a problem. Even if it's not all the way there, even if it's half as bad as what this ECI report is saying, it's still massive. It's still 40%. So let's do something about it. Let's get out in front of it and educate people and try to allay some of those fears of retaliation to get that reporting rate up. Again, this is something that can move in a parabolic or a logarithmic style progression because you're dealing with hearts and minds. And that stuff can catch fire and it can become a real sort of cultural, ethical catalyst within your organization if you do it right. And it doesn't take a lot of effort. But it's something to keep an eye on, and probably assume that this is going on in your organization, this fear of retaliation or this actual retaliation happening.
Yeah, I mean, if 21% of employees are not getting retaliated against, you got to assume that all of your thousands of employees are none of those people, right? Like, it must be 90% of the rest of the world because we're fine, right? Like, it's happening. And I think that we want to see action. We want to try to work toward action in a few ways here, right? We want employees to feel less fear of retaliation and less actual retaliation, right? So there are things you can do, process, third-party reporting, auditing things, exit interviews and stuff like that. And also, this is SEC whistleblowing tips, right? So this blue line is not tips to companies, right? So we would like to find that out earlier and keep those from going to the SEC because we're going to solve it faster. Not just because we're going to stay out of trouble. That's compliance 1.0. It's not 1993 anymore. If we can find this out, well, then we can fix it and we don't have to rely on the regulator to get us on track. These trends, or what these trends are indicating, are going to come down. What's not going to happen is this trend coming down.
Right.
There's, you're not going to kind of skip over this generation and be fully staffed by the greatest generation for the next 30 years until the next one comes up, right? This trend's going to increase. There are things that this generation is more likely to speak up, more concerned with authenticity, more sensitive to that retaliation. They're going to, vote with their feet and say, well, I'll go somewhere else where I'm treated better. You're going to see that turnover, lack of employee engagement. This is a huge opportunity.
Huge.
This trend in the Gen Z and Millennial generation is a huge opportunity for compliance because they are going to be on the side of ethics more than any generation before. Right. It's not because the generation, the greatest generation lacked ethics. They're great. Love them.
They're the greatest.
But they're the greatest. But these Gen Z and Millennials, they're more vocal about it. They are less tolerant of misbehavior. They are not going to put up with their boss lying through their teeth and then just going along with it. So this has a chance, if you're kind of in this 80%, this has a chance to wreck you and you performing to failure. But also if you do a good job as a compliance team, and if you're dedicated to this, like everyone I know in this profession is dedicated to doing this right, this is a huge opportunity to have some cheerleaders, have some support, have some alignment with more and more of the workforce. I mean, look at this. 40% in 2018, again, almost doubling by 2025, 2030. There's a huge opportunity for us to use this trend to not be a threat or a challenge, but to say, hey, you know what? We finally got some people who are going to speak our language.
It's a huge opportunity. It's a huge opportunity. Use these folks, but you need to educate them and you need to sell them, persuade them that their voice matters and that you want to hear it. And you're going to do that by having intake that meets them where they're at, that is respectful, that gives them dignity, and communicating back to them the results of things that are spoken up about. And that can be done in a number of different ways. That can be done in town hall meetings. That can be done in a monthly HR or compliance newsletter. That can be done in sort of storytelling or anecdotes from leadership about culture champions or people who have, expressed the speak up courage to raise their hand when they see something wrong. That little seasoning in your dish throughout the year is going to do a lot to persuade the people that are already primed to speak up to start speaking up. And you can really start to crowdsource risk management across your organization and start to get a little bit of help.
Yeah. And I think what we need to realize as ethics experts is we are not mini regulators at the company level.
That's right.
We are not just trying to enforce some things and we make some legislation as a policy and assume that that's going to be solved and then get some people in trouble when they don't. That's how regulators operate. We are the stewards of our company brand. We are the stewards of our culture. We are stewards of the ethical behavior of our employee base. And really, the most powerful way to advance our mission as compliance leaders is to use our influence, to use motivation, to build that alignment with the workforce. We just did this webinar for ECI about behavioral psychology, and we're talking about how you need to persuade people, you need to influence people, you need to be a leader. And if you're working on that trust piece or you're working on that education piece, you need to realize that putting in a policy is not going to get 100% of people to align with it. You have a limited sphere, limited attention that people are going to pay to you. You probably need to focus on your big levers and beat that drum throughout the year. Continue to say, hey, in case you forgot, we still honor your anonymity. In case you didn't hear before, maybe you missed the last email, we're not going to retaliate against you. You need to get that message out a bunch of times, not just so everyone sees it once, but so people see it and remember it and then take action on it. Yep. And that is what is going to lead compliance and ethics into the decade of compliance 3.0 that we're entering. And that's what's going to separate the kind of also-rans, the people who continue to struggle for budget, from the spheres of excellence in compliance and ethics that the company believes in them, employees engage with them, and they actually make the world a better workplace. So thanks for joining us. This has been the bonus round. There's a bunch more write-up about this in the full benchmark report. And we hope that this session, this video, this benchmark report can help you become better.